The effects of alcohol, hormones, and mindset on training. So, I guess I wanted to cover all three topics simply because it's these are the sort of things that we will encounter the most in our lives, apart from like personal events or circumstances. These are the three things that we kind of, it will be like that can externally or internally affect us and our sort of motivation and consistency to train. Um, these are alcohol, not everyone drinks, but even if you only have one glass every now and again, it can affect your mood and therefore it can affect your training, your energy, all of this. Same with hormones. So this again is something that obviously we all have to deal with this, unlike alcohol. Um, but this is like it's something we can't choose and it's almost quite hard to control sometimes our hormones, but actually we can, even though we can't choose how and why and when they almost appear and affect us, we can sort of negate the impacts of it and develop different coping strategies to make ourselves basically happier and more consistent with our training and our life. And then same with our mindset, like it's always so neglected. It's always just tucked into the back corner of an online coach's toolkit. It's like we always just forget about the mindset side of things. And we think, oh, well they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Actually, it's the most important tool you can use. Obviously, a no-brainer to try and excel in whatever you're doing in life, not just training. And again, just to be happier. So, uh, the importance of what I'm going into today, sort of delving into, it's about rationalizing how we feel. It's about realizing when we do have really like rubbish days and like, I don't know about you, Maxine, but like I'll be really open and honest here. Sometimes I'll just wake up. And I think a lot of women in particular struggle with this. You'll just wake up and you'll just want to cry. or you'll or you'll be cleaning the house and all of a sudden you'll just want to cry or something random will happen and you're like, oh my God, my like what is going on? I'm just so sad. And then you start to catastrophize everything. And then you suddenly realize, oh wait, I'm on my period or I'm just about to come on in 2 days' time. And as soon as you rationalize it in your head, you're like, oh, it's not too bad actually. It's just my body kind of almost playing tricks on me. And it's like once you rationalize it, it can become so much easier to navigate and deal with. And suddenly the end of the world isn't the end of the world after all. So that's what my plan is with this session tonight. It's to just rationalize everything, say it out loud so you realize it's not just in your head and there's real reasons for why you feel different ways and why you're impacted in different ways by different things. Um, and of course, doing so, we can really help to fend off things like unhealthy relationships with our food, with our body image, and sort of make sure destructive thoughts never take a full grasp of us because sometimes we're all going to get them. We're all human. We're all susceptible to negative thoughts, but we don't want them to run our lives. Um, yeah, is there so let's just dive into actually, Maxine, because I know that obviously with you, alcohol has been something that you have struggled with recently. So did you just like literally have one or two drinks the other night, I take it, and then all and you felt the physical effects of that for days afterwards?
So yeah, I had two drinks, and I typically don't drink. So I've had nothing for probably 6 months or even longer than that. I
Yeah.
can't even remember. Um, and I didn't feel anything the same evening, other than being a bit tipsy. Um, but the next day I felt really tired.
Mhm.
Um, and I did my workout the next day during the evening because I just could not get myself to the gym for the first, well, basically until the last hour before the gym closed. So the full day I was struggling to actually get going, and that just continued Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So I kind of just gave myself time to recover. And I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if it was because of the alcohol at first, but I'm pretty sure now because I haven't had that effect before,
Hmm.
and I felt it specifically like I couldn't trust my strength.
Yeah.
It was a different sensation, really.
Yeah, yeah. So everything you're saying there is not just in your head, like that is what alcohol can do to you. So that's the good news. It's like when you do feel like this, don't think, it's in your head like that. Even one or two glasses of booze can actually affect you in this way, and it can affect your muscles, it can affect your energy levels, it can even affect your rate of perceived exertion. So even though you're not pushing as hard, even though you're not pushing as hard as you think you are or you were in your previous session, it feels really hard, if that makes sense. So like it can skew your literal judgment of how hard things feel. So there's a few different reasons for why this is. And first of all, by the way, like I'll just clarify, like there's obviously nothing wrong with having alcohol, like on a weekly basis, whatever. Of course, it's like, and especially if it's, one or two drinks here or there, you barely drink, like you're absolutely grand. Um, but it is good to know how even one or two drinks might affect you so that in the future when that happens again you're not just like blaming yourself, you're like, oh, there's a reason for this. So um we're going to cover that. We're going to talk about now like how alcohol can impact you, but also what we can do to try and mitigate these negative impacts as much as possible. So um, the first one is probably pretty obvious. Everyone knows alcohol can dehydrate you. But what people probably don't know is that, because I know, Maxine, how you were saying that it can affect your muscle, that you felt literally weaker as a result for 2 to 3 days afterwards. So when you're dehydrated, it can directly affect your muscle function. So it can affect the energy stores within your muscles, and it can affect how well your cells operate to sort of push out that energy when you need it for explosive movements, for strength movements, for powerful movements, especially in weightlifting. So you will probably feel a little bit weaker um, as a result, even up to 2 to 3 days after drinking just a couple of alcoholic drinks. Um, and then on top of that, you can have reduced energy levels. Again, this can happen, of course, through dehydration and stamina as well. So have you ever felt like you've been on a night out, wherever you've had one too many drinks or even just one drink, right? And then the next morning you wake up and you walk up a flight of stairs and you're like totally out of breath. And like, I don't know about you, but I get that sensation even when I've had one drink. And it can, like, literally, it can affect your stamina so much. And I class myself as a pretty fit person. But like the other night, right, I had one drink, no, maybe two drinks. They were alcoholic. That was the first time I've drank in, oh God, months and months and months, probably since New Year. And that was it. Two drinks, two very weak, watered down drinks. And the next day, I was so out of breath, just like walking around the shops. And as soon as I'd have to go up something of a slight bit of intensity, I was really out of breath. It can really affect you in that sense as well. And again, so it's like when you do drink, even 2 to 3 days later, don't beat yourself up if your sessions don't immediately feel effortless and amazing again. And then of course, it can also affect your muscle recovery and growth as well, because when we're dehydrated, um, our balance is off between the salts or the electrolytes we have in our sort of in our body compared to the amount of water we have. And this can ultimately kind of hinder or stunt our muscles' ability to recover. Usually, we do have to be drinking quite a lot of alcohol to worry about these impacts on like a big level. So don't worry. But you're never gonna feel, because alcohol is toxin, so you're never gonna feel like 100% optimal, at least for the next day after you've drank even a small amount. It's normal, it's totally fine. And if you don't drink much, you don't need to worry about it. Sleep quality, again, did you like have okay sleep for the past few nights?
uh, the same night, I didn't sleep long enough. So I
Yeah.
slept on the train ride home. That was like 2.5 hours of sleep during the ride home. Then I've had trouble falling asleep the next couple of days.
Okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, actually, I've slept probably too few hours, but that's because I've had plans early.
Yeah.
So
That could be a part of it as well, just not quite getting enough sleep or just being slightly off rhythm with your sleep. Um, that all obviously will affect your mood, your how you feel. You'll feel you could potentially will feel physically weaker just from having a little bit less sleep than what you're used to. But yeah, and alcohol can affect your sleep quality as well. And sleep can really affect your recovery of muscles, your mood, everything. Um, so let's come up with some strategies to basically just balance the impacts of social drinking on our training. So, firstly, like, did you feel the next day, were you easily able to go back to eating normally and just drinking and staying hydrated? Like, were you able to do all that side of things normally, or did it feel even quite a lot of effort just to like eat well and get back, stay good on that side of things?
um, I think I ate less the next day than I should have. I'm not sure, but I didn't really have much of an appetite.
Yeah.
Um, but it wasn't difficult. But I never drink, so
Mhm.
I'm not sure it has any big effect on me.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's good. I think in this case it's more probably it would affect people obviously if you're drinking a lot every weekend or drinking many like a lot of volume of alcohol on a night out or whatever it is, then I think the effects are going to be obviously a lot worse. But yeah, even just the fact that you felt weaker for the next few days, um, we can definitely look at like how can we minimize that. So if you want to go out again and have a couple of drinks, or just anyone in general who's going to be listening to this, like if you're someone that does enjoy like 2, 3, 4 glasses of wine on a night out, whatever it is, like how can we kind of mitigate the effects? How can we develop some good coping strategies so that like we don't feel quite as crap and it doesn't affect us for the whole week afterwards? I would say firstly, stay hydrated when you're drinking. So actually make sure you have water when you're drinking, when you're on nights out, and just drink lots of water the next day as well. I don't know about you, Maxine, but I always get this like feeling like I can't satisfy my thirst when I'm hungover, and that is just that the whole dehydration thing. So like definitely make sure when you are drinking, and I'm not just directly talking to you, Maxine, I just mean people in general, especially people that drink more. Make sure you are staying hydrated as you drink alcohol, and eat something that's salty. So, like, eat something, or the next day, make sure you're popping some salts into your foods, and that's going to keep you nice and hydrated as well. Um, but also, like if you do get to a point where you think like alcohol is actually just really it's only giving me negative things, it's not actually giving me any positive things, then you can obviously start to swap things out for non-alcoholic beers, or just like change the social situation. So it's like and maybe instead of meeting at a pub, you meet at the cinema, or you just go for a walk, or you meet earlier on in the day so that like coffee is the normalized thing to do instead of booze or whatever it is. So there's little strategies like that that we can use. But again, like I'm not demonizing alcohol. And like I say, I also had a couple of glasses the other night. And I think it's about just knowing how it impacts you and then weighing up on any sort of given month or part of the year, like, okay, is it worth it? If you know yourself, what are the effects? If what are you going to plan to do? Are you going to plan to have one drink, 3 drinks? Okay, and then weighing up like what are the consequences of that? What do you want to do for the rest of the week? Do you have a lot of training you want to get done? What are you prioritizing more? Are you prioritizing feeling really fresh for the rest of that week? Or are you prioritizing that social time that you want to spend with your friends and family? Both are equally just as right. And it's just about what time in your life you're at what are you prioritizing the most? And be stubborn with that, like don't let people pressure you into being like, oh, come on, just have another drink, or yeah, like you always miss the nights out. I'll just come to the pub with us. Blah blah blah. If you feel like it gives you more negatives and positives, be stubborn and just be like, no, no, I'm all right, but let's meet up in the daytime and let's go for a walk instead. Whatever it is. But yeah, like don't avoid these things as well. Like enjoy the fact that you can also go out, you can have one or two drinks if you want to, if you think it's worth the sort of slight hangover you might get, or you can go out and just drink water, non-alcoholic beer. There's so many different options. Like, do you think you're like Maxine, are you happy to do you think you'll keep drinking, or do you think you'll go to non-alcoholic beer, or what kind of strategies do you think you'll put in place to try and not feel so weak in the days after you drink? Or are you happy with that? Like, are you happy with that sort of toss up?
No, I did not like the effect at all. Um, I've lived a long time being really depressed and really fatigued and tired and exhausted. And I'm really enjoying being energetic and active and moving and feeling strong. So, no, I don't want to feel like shit for 3 days. I don't think it's worth it for me.
Yeah.
Um, I usually don't feel well mentally while drinking alcohol
Yeah.
either. This time it was fine. Didn't really feel anything negative in that way. Um, but it has happened before. Like wine usually makes me feel kind of depressed and anxious. And honestly, with the gains that I want, it's just not, it doesn't fit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But that in itself is a win, because it's like, okay, you did it. You had that glass or two. I'm sure you had a great night. And then you had that knock-on effect of like, oh God, I don't like feeling like this though. And then realizing, yeah, it's not worth it for me this time. That is a win in itself, It's like, okay, now you just know moving forwards. That's it. It's not serving you right now in any particular
Mhm.
way. And it's also totally normal as well to feel like the alcohol has like impacts you sometimes in a not that great a way. Like there's lots of people that sometimes can feel a bit anxious when they drink, or a little bit low energy, or mentally quite a little bit depressed afterwards and anxious. And it's so normal. In fact, most people that drink alcohol get this. They just don't admit it. So yeah, it's good. That in itself is a win that you've come to the conclusion that actually it's just not worth it for you. And then just moving forwards with what your priorities actually are. For me as well, I've come to the same conclusion that you know what, like it's nice and the idea of it is nice, but it's just not fitting me at the moment. It's not fitting my goals, it's not fitting my priorities, and it's affecting me too much in all of the days post having that nice night out with friends, whatever it is, having that drink or two. It just affects me too much, so it's just not worth it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that is a strategy in itself to just be like, you know what, it's not for me, and I just don't want to drink. And you shouldn't have to come up if you don't want to drink and you feel like there's too many negatives than there are positives. You shouldn't feel the need to come up with a strategy all the time to be like, how do I minimize the effects of alcohol so I can still drink it? Like it's totally fine to just not drink it.
Yeah.
Um, okay.
I also feel like if I if I wouldn't have been training as much as I have been, I would never have had realized the effects it had on muscle recovery because I've heard about it, but actually experiencing it was a different thing.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because I think yeah, I agree with you that the thing is the healthier you get and the more the stronger you get and the more you engage your muscles and you're used to feeling your muscles in that like optimal state with lots of energy and power behind them every time you work out. To go from that to then suddenly feeling like they're suboptimal and something's working against you and not with you, it's a weird feeling, and it can be really frustrating because suddenly you get used to that athletic, fit, strong feeling, and when it's taken away from you, it makes you appreciate and realize, oh, this is how it feels to, feel strong and healthy. And you're right, like people that don't work out, they will drink and sometimes they won't feel the negative impacts of it that much, if at all. And it's because they don't have, they maybe are people that drink a little bit more regularly and they don't work out and all the rest of it. And they don't have that way of being able to compare what that healthier body feels like compared to that suboptimal feeling. Um, so yeah, it's good. It highlights that, doesn't it? Like the progress you've made in your own body already. It's the same with unhealthy eating. Like I was on holiday just there and I was eating I was eating as well as I could, but I was eating out 1 to 2 times a day because we couldn't cook in our hotel. And so all of a sudden the control of what I could put into my body was in the hands of different restaurants than where we ended up. So I didn't have much control of what I was eating. And I'm not gonna lie, like even though I enjoyed my holiday, I did not feel like that great in terms of my body and my energy levels because I could feel the difference between how my body usually is and what the fuel I usually put into it does to me. And then this holiday, whoa, yeah, I was so glad when I came back from my holiday. I was like craving to eat healthy again. That's what it does. Consistency of treating your body well, treating your body with respect, you start to crave that feeling so much, and then you start to crave the healthier foods more. You enjoy them more, and you enjoy not drinking more than you do when you did used to drink, and all the rest of it. So, yeah, that's great. Okay, so let's move on to hormones and training. So hormones, of course, play a huge role, especially for us women, with our mood, our energy levels, and how it impacts our training. So estrogen and progesterone, so they fluctuate massively when it comes to our periods. So they are hormones that really affect us when it's our time of month. Um, on top of that, so that's something obviously we can't really control, and each person is different, with how their time of the month will affect them. Uh, and it's something we kind of got to roll with because we're not quite sure how it's going to affect us when each month comes. On top of that, we've got cortisol. So this is the stress hormone, and this can be released if we go from doing not much exercise to loads of exercise that is at really high intensity, and it's too much too quickly, and we get stressed. We are stressed, and it produces this hormone called cortisol. And so if actually we can have a healthy amount of it, and that is great, but if we have too much of it, this can produce things like anxiety and depression at different scales. They're different. It can affect people in different ways, but it can be a negative. Sometimes it can be positive, but if we have too much of it, it can be a negative. And we can also get cortisol from things like just having a stressful job or being stressed out in general about something or other, or having a negative mindset. So these are things that we do need to keep an eye on as well, because they can actually really affect our training and our recovery from training and our motivation. Then the last sort of major group of hormones that we can be really affected by is serotonin and endorphins. And these are the sort of feel good, happier type of endorphins that we get through movement and through exercise, and even through simple things like hanging out with friends or just physically smiling can release serotonin and endorphins. So these hormones can affect us in a good and a bad way, but it's important to know how we can again sort of mitigate the effects, the impacts of these sort of nastier hormones, and we can use our feel good hormones to counteract too much of the bad hormones. So what do I mean by this? Basically, we can, when we're feeling down, for example, when it's our time of the month, that can hugely impact us, right? Like we can wake up one day, be happy as Larry. The next day we can wake up and we can feel like the whole world is crashing in around on us, and we can focus on the negatives. Like that's all we do. We just focus on the negatives, negatives, negatives. So it's good to be able to rationalize that out and be like, right, when this happens, okay, think about, right, am I on my period? Or how many weeks am I from my last period? Like, figure that out first, rationalize it in your head. Or is it because you've had a really stressful day at work, or you're feeling really burnt out from the amount of exercise you've been doing? Like try to pinpoint what it is instead of just letting negative these hormones sort of direct you through life. Like face them head on and try to rationalize them, and then figure out what is it that's making you feel this way, and how can we get to the source of that and change that. How can we make our job a bit more relaxing, or how can we pinpoint it to the fact that, oh, I've got my period in 2 days time. Like what, Maxine, if I had to ask you a question, it would be, what effects do you feel from maybe when it's your time of the month, or do you have a lot of stress at the moment? What are the hormones that are playing up the most in your life at the moment that are affecting you, if any?
Right. So one typical thing when it's that time of the month, how I know it's coming is basically the day before, or maybe 2 days before, I feel like I want to die. And I'll actually hear that in my head. I want to die. I don't want to live anymore. And
Right.
it's every month. So I know now, I've learned the hard way
Yeah.
that that is actually just my hormones.
Yeah.
So now, before I used to like um make it a really big thing
Yeah.
because I was also depressed, but now I know it's a reoccurring thing,
Yeah.
and now it's more like, oh, I can rationalize it and I can be like, oh, right. It's just today.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Exactly.
That's that's like the worst effect I have.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, since starting the coaching with you and exercising more, my effects from that time of the month have decreased so much. It's
Wow.
insane. I don't even feel moody anymore.
Oh, that's amazing. Because do you know what's happened? Is because you've almost started to control your own hormones. And I think that's kind of the crux of what I'm trying to get at. It's that, yes, all these hormones are going to be constantly mixing, they're going to be stirring the pot every month. And things like movement, exercise, controlling the controllables, controlling what you're putting into your body, um, going to that gym, even when you're feeling moody or depressed or have these really negative, intrusive thoughts, going to the gym regardless, you're kind of telling your body, okay, yeah, I'm feeling this hormone. I can feel this. It's really strong. It's almost taken a hold of me, but I'm still going to go to the gym because now I'm going to get a different hormone. I'm going to get the serotonin. I'm going to get the endorphins, and that is going to override those negative emotions, or at least help to counteract them. And the more you do that, the more you work out when you aren't feeling great, they're the times that count, because you're proving to yourself each time that in those dark places of your brain, those dark moments, actually there is a button. People always think it's made up, but there is a button that you can flick, and you can turn that dark room into that light room, and it can take literally sometimes minutes. So I'll give you an example today. Like, so I this is my time of the month. It literally came on this morning, and I felt miserable. And I was like rationalizing out in my head, had a little cry, a little pathetic 2 minute cry. Not pathetic at all. It's just hormones, isn't it? And it's totally fine. And it's okay to cry. And that is fine as well. And then I said to myself, Flora, I need to walk out this door. I need to go work out now, because do I really want to for my day to start off and end like this. No, I don't. So I need to do something to change that. So I went to the gym. I started moving my body, and I think like you distract yourself. Then the endorphins start happening, and before you know it, you're smiling. The smiling creates more endorphins. And then all of a sudden, all of those negative little things that you're hyper fixating on, they turn into positives. And suddenly life doesn't become serious at all. And everything is like lovely again. And it's so powerful when you realize movement and treating yourself well, speaking to yourself kindly, distracting yourself in positive ways, eating well. These are powerful tools that can change really dark moments into really lovely moments that you have, that you feel empowered in, literally sometimes within minutes. And that in itself is a really reassuring thought. So the next time, and it sounds like you do this already, Maxine, you've already empowered yourself with being on this program and through working out and eating healthy. You're seeing these effects too. And just all I'll say is to stress that so that the next time you feel you have that intrusive dark thought, um, like just do try to change the environment you're in as quickly as possible, or move your body, or physically start smiling, or tell a joke to yourself, and force your way out of it and into a better mood, because it is, you can do it, and you can do it every time if you can take control of that moment. And but moving your body is one of the most powerful tools you can do for that. I mean, you literally just get endorphins, that rush of endorphins, that rush of serotonin to help balance up, to help even up your hormones. That is all you need. Not always all you need, that is undermining, but often that will really help.
I just realized something about the
Go for it.
alcohol as well.
Yeah,
Um, about the endorphins and stuff. My workout this Monday, I didn't get any kick out of it at all. I didn't feel uplifted after the workout, and not even after the run. And a run always makes me
yeah,
happy. So it screws with the hormones as well in that case.
yeah, it does, big time. Oh yeah, alcohol can really mess with your head. And again, it comes down to having that awareness of realizing it. It's all about being kind to yourself and realizing these things aren't in your head. It's because of maybe the alcohol that's still in your system, or it's because of the stress, whatever it is, rationalizing it in your head. And to be honest, as soon as you had finished that run that other day, and you had maybe, did you feel like at the time you said to yourself, oh, this is the alcohol, this is why I don't feel it? Or is it just something that it's occurred to you now?
It's occurred to me now, and
Yeah,
well, the day after or something, because during the run, I was thinking to myself, oh, my cardiovascular health is shit again.
yeah,
What's happened? Like, why,
yeah,
why am I this bad again? Why do
yeah.
my legs not work? Why am I so heavy? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. And it's a domino effect. And once you think that one negative thought, all the rest will follow. And sometimes, so in that situation, again, just remember what I say about if this happens again with you, just remember, okay, rationalize it. Every time you have that negative thought, rationalize it and then counteract it with a positive thought, and never underestimate the negative impacts and the power that things like alcohol and stress and being on your period can have on you. But by doing so, you can turn it into a positive, because it can be really empowering to rationalize that in your head and realize that that's all it is, and then you can change that story. You have power to change that story that is going on in your head. Okay, so that would be my main strategy when we're dealing with hormones. It feels like we can't control them, and to a certain extent we can't. They kind of spring on us sometimes out of nowhere, and it's about rationalizing it, facing them head on, and then throwing in trying to do something to counteract those hormones that gives us that serotonin and endorphins. Okay, so then this kind of flows on nicely to my last slide, which is on mindset and training. Because again, it's about How do we develop, how do we cultivate that positive mindset? Because at the end of the day, usually it's never actually going to be our physical body that stops us from going to the gym and or from missing a training session. It's never really our physical body, it's our mind. It's what we're telling ourselves, it's what we're saying to ourselves, it's how we feel about ourselves, it's intrusive thoughts, it's negative talk that is going to stop you from hitting a training session. So how do we cultivate a strong mind? That is what it's all about. Like, we need to back ourselves. No one else is ever going to back yourself like you're going to back yourself. So you need to start like loving yourself so goddamn hard. The people that love themselves and really truly speak kindly to themselves are the people that are way more consistent in their journeys, in their fitness journeys and in life. So do you think, Maxine, more often or not, your mindset serves you? So does it work with you or does it work against you? Or would you say it's quite a mixed bag for you?
I would say it works for me a lot. It didn't used to. It used to be the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Um, but now I've kind of adapted to a way of thinking. Um, so most of the time, like when I'm in a good headspace, it works out. But if the hormones are fucked or anything else,
Mm-hmm.
it can go the other direction. But most of the time, I try to think of it like if I don't have no, how do I put this? Um, if there's no one to coach me or like um motivate me in the moment, like
Mm-hmm.
if I don't have someone with me that can,
Yeah.
I should rely on that anyway. But I love affection and
Mm-hmm.
confidence, and I live for it. But if I don't have anyone to give me that, which is most of the time,
Mm-hmm.
I have to get that from somewhere because I need it. I
Yeah.
actually thrive on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've stopped looking for it in other people and started to just give it to myself,
Yeah.
basically. So, and when that feels stupid, I just think about me as a little girl,
Yeah.
like 10, 12 years old. And I kind of look, like I try to see myself, um, how disappointed I would look if I told myself what I've been thinking
Yeah.
negatively. And that usually makes me shift into
Yeah.
something positive.
I think that is such a powerful strategy to use. I think that is great. I feel like you have a really good awareness of yourself, and it's probably because you've had to go through that harder time where you've really struggled, and you've found ways to overcome a lot of that now, which is really amazing. I'm really glad I'm chatting to you, Maxine, because I think a lot of people will learn a lot from you right now. And yeah, I think that strategy is amazing. Always viewing yourself when you're that younger person who's still not scared almost of the world, hasn't had anything bad happen to them, or is still that naive little kid and eternal optimist, hopeful, full of energy. And yeah, it's good to just remember who that little girl was and who felt invincible, and then to try and realize, like, okay, what you feel now, that it's learned behavior, rightfully or wrongfully so, through different experiences you've had, um but how happy was that little girl that didn't have any fear or uncertainty or fear of being judged? Like, kids will just walk up to you and tell you exactly what they think and how they feel, and kids will tell each other how they feel and if they want to be friends or not, and then they'll just be like, okay, cool, and then they'll move on to the next person. So it's like, sometimes if we can channel that inner child, that in itself can be really powerful. And another thing we can do is, so this is something I'll share with you my strategy now. So when I feel negative thoughts that are becoming a little bit too intrusive. There are things that maybe start to, because we all get negative thoughts, right? But negative thoughts that creep up on us, that we start to notice that, and they're the same ones maybe on a daily basis or a weekly basis, and they impact us. They actually get us down because we're listening to them, we're giving them the time of day, they're repetitive. These ones we need to really take seriously and figure out how we can deal with these and turn them into more constructive thoughts, because they will not serve you, and they will start to impact different corners of your life. So sometimes when I notice something happening, maybe a negative thought that's getting me down, and it's been getting me down for the past week, 2 weeks, month, whatever it is, it keeps creeping up on me. Okay, now I need to deal with it. So the strategy I use is and you might have heard of this one before, Maxine. You imagine like something that you love. So I love dogs, for example. Like they make me feel really great. They make me feel happy and warm. And so like I'll imagine a dog, and then I'll imagine my dog in my favorite color, which is blue, because blue calms me down. It for some reason it makes me think of really positive like childhood memories. When I used to color, or I used to paint lots of things in blue because it was my favorite color. And you start to add different bits and bobs onto this visual image, this mental image that you have, that remind you of positive things, either from your past or things that you know about yourself. Like, you maybe, like, for example, I like to think of myself as a super positive, happy person. So that's how I put that into this visual image, and I represent it in different ways, like the sunshine being behind a dog. And before you know it, you sit there and you really concentrate on this positive image for a couple of minutes, and all these amazing feelings and memories and experiences come flooding back to you, and it makes you feel whole again, and it makes you remember why you love yourself so much. And that, I have learned, it's not only a really powerful tool for making me feel happier and to counteract these usually very irrational negative feelings that I say to myself, but it also actually makes me a better athlete, because I become braver. Because when you're happier, you become that little bit braver in yourself because you believe in yourself more. So you start to push the boundaries of what you want to do. You start to apply for a race that scares you a little bit, because suddenly you don't really care about what other people are going to say or how they're going to judge you, because you just love yourself too goddamn much, and it can trickle into how you're training and that your performance and so many other aspects of your life. So that is something that I would advise, if you don't already use, try that as well, Maxine, although your strategy I think is working amazing for you.
I think that's beautiful, your
Yeah.
strategy.
Thank you. So is yours. And so just to wrap this up, because I think mindset over all these things is what will be the decider or not, whether you can cope with alcohol, with how you're feeling, with your periods, with stress levels. It's going to be your mindset, right? It always comes down to your mindset. So just to summarize this, I'm just going to read this one thing out. So optimism involves focusing on the positive aspects of life and maintaining a hopeful outlook even in challenging times. Practice reframing negative thoughts into positive ones. And this doesn't happen overnight, it'll take time. It's an art, it's a skill, just like anything in life. We learn it, and the more we use it, the more we get better at it. So have patience with this. So develop an awareness of where your thoughts take you. Do they take you to the past, to the present, to the future? Are they negative? Are they positive? Are they resentful? Are they loving? How do you speak to yourself? How do you speak about other people around you? If your thoughts aren't serving you in a positive way, they may be quite self-destructive or self-sabotaging. So we can get addicted to always thinking in a pessimistic way, even though we don't enjoy doing so. So don't let your thoughts or your moods control your actions, but instead let your actions control your moods. So that is the last like little line I want you to, if you take anything away with you, take that away with you. Let your actions control how you feel, because you, by physically smiling or by physically walking yourself to the gym, even when you feel like shit, you will change how you feel. You will change your mood in that moment by talking kindly to yourself, literally out loud, looking to yourself in the mirror, and by saying to yourself, like, I am beautiful, I am worthy of this life, I am all these things. By physically saying it to yourself, you will change how you feel about yourself. And by practicing it on a weekly, monthly basis, and you have to practice this consistently, you will develop such an amazing relationship with yourself. And that can only mean you will develop the most empowering relationship with your training, and the most productive one. So that is everything. Did you have any last questions, Maxine? Sorry, I know that it was only you on this one, so you're probably fed up of listening to my voice.
No questions.
Okay.
Uh, but I do feel like I want to add that that is also, it's our responsibility to give ourselves that type of love, to
Yeah,
not let um no, to let our actions control our moods.
yeah, yeah,
And I have a little thing on my fridge I want to show
yeah.
everyone. I look at every day. Is it the right way now?
Yeah, I can see it. Read it out.
I have this says I have to move my body today, and I've crossed that out, and I've put I get to move my body today.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
love
love
that.
that. It's all about perspective. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it
couldn't have
helps
summed it
me
up better.
remember.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for
Thank
listening
you.
in, Maxine.